have a cup of tea. What a lovely, peaceful scene. Aren't I the lucky one? Unlike so many others in this world. Fresh air to breathe. Fresh, clean drinking water. Heating, lighting, power. A little garden in which to sit. No neighbours. They've actually left. And they were very sweet, really. There was this little girl, just a 1-year-old, and I miss her, actually. When I first arrived, 7 or 8 months ago now, bit loud, isn't it? She used to cry a bit, so maybe teething or something. And I thought, shut my window. Please, baby, go to sleep or something. But then you'd hear her little happy laughter and see her little face and so on. And they've gone now, so I miss them. Funny old world. Anyway, peace, 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 you see. Christ says this. It's in John chapter 14, I think. Gospel of John. Peace be with you. My peace I give unto you. Amen. Amen. My problem is, awkward old cuss that I am, I cannot be at peace. There are 2 commandments. So love God, love your neighbour as yourself. I cannot be at peace when quite clearly my neighbour is not. Anyone in the world at the moment. Obviously there's this huge eruption of emotional pain from people who have received racial abuse, racial maltreatment, to the point of death, obviously, in America and elsewhere, for heaven's sake. And those who perpetrated such things against them, and, you know, what is our society? And, so it's not just the coronavirus kicking off and sort of waking up the whole world to the fact that us little human beings before God are nothing. That's been my absolutely clear thought right from the beginning of this coronavirus, that God is saying, mankind, look, I can just, with one tiny little virus, basically close down the whole world. And now everyone throughout the world has to consider their position. Is it 1 meter or 2? And it's not funny. I've got background asthma, and I do know, I've also had acute heart failure. I know what it feels like when you can't breathe. You cannot get enough air into your body. And it's awful. It's seriously awful. And to die like that, sort of alone, surrounded by, or not surrounded, but only seeing people in hazmat suits in ICU, I mean, it's awful. For everyone, really. For the actual person dying, obviously, but for those who have to try to treat them, and there isn't a treatment yet, and then obviously for all the family and friends of that person. And that can be almost more painful if you can't see your loved one at the end. So, we're living in troubled times. There have always been troubled times. If we look back in history, my knowledge is always somewhat eclectic. But there was the Black Death in the 1600s, and the other one in the 1345 time, when I think as much as a third of the whole world's population died. 70 to 200 million, depending on the figures. And even in the earliest times after Christ, I am a Christian. I'm speaking as a Christian. The early century after Christ, they were awaiting this second coming of Christ. He rose again and ascended into heaven, but this question of the second coming, the which the Jews were in, well, they're still in denial, actually. Mainstream Judaism, their Bible ends at Malachi, which is the last book of our Christian Bible, and then obviously there's the New Testament. Christ was a Jew. The Jews, the Israelites, are and remain God's chosen people. Some of them, but many have strayed. We all stray, for heaven's sake. The Old Testament prophets are forever bringing to the attention of the people, Elijah especially, couldn't find one, I don't think, in the end. This is in 1 Kings 16 or 19. 1 Kings 19, I think. Poor old Elijah was virtually, they were killing these prophet types, saying, you are not listening to God anymore. Moses came off the mountain with the 10 commandments, and lo and behold, they'd already made a golden calf to worship. God says, I am a jealous God. Thou shalt have no other gods but me. Well, you either believe this or you don't. I do. And then I believe, ultimately, in God's loving purpose for us all. All of mankind, every single human being is precious and special in God's eyes. Every single hair on the head of your fellow man, woman, and child is precious and special. Therefore, you can't harm them. Turn the other cheek. And once you know that, there's a sort of inner compulsion. To find ways of loving your neighbour And in the world we now live in, our neighbour is essentially the whole world. Our physical neighbour, those we meet today, but all those throughout the world in pain and suffering. At least one can pray about these things. Even though practically it would seem so often there is precious little one can do about it because of us lot, humankind, and our ways. That's not to condemn all mankind as bad. There's plenty of good around. You don't know news is good news, but good stuff doesn't make the headlines, doesn't sell newspapers, obviously. So, it's a beautiful day. I am here in England. I was in Peru last year and somewhere else the year before. Off on my pilgrimage around the world, trying to save the world, which I obviously haven't done yet. And I wish you peace. So peace be with you. My peace I give unto you. Amen.